It is 7 o'clock and we do have a quorum present. We have the privilege of some intermediate students going to lead us in the pledge this evening. Mr. Vino.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Tolosa Midway Independent School District educates every student to be a lifelong learner, a person of integrity, and a positive contributor to society. Public open comment. No one has signed up for public open comment. So we go into another part of our meetings that we enjoy, the recognition phase. Ms. Support, please. The 20. Okay. The 2021 Leo Rodriguez Award presented to Jaime Castillo, TMA High School class of 2018.
I think we have a guest speaker for this one. There she is. Go ahead.
This year, I, Lupita Alexander, selected Jaime Castillo to be the recipient of the Leo Rodriguez Award. Last year, Jaime coached all sports offered in our program, and it is his 4th year coaching youth activities. Jaime is currently attending Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and his future plan includes being a special education teacher and coach. Jaime is the son of Ed and Chrissy Castillo. According to Jaime, he got involved in youth activities his senior year of high school back in 2017. During flag football season, he said, after coaching that first season of flag football, he quickly realized that he had a passion for the development in youth sports, and it has been a pleasure to help the youth of Tolosa Midway grow over the past 4 years. Jaime is a great coach. His passion is evident. He does an outstanding job promoting our program and teaching the kids to take pride in themselves and never give up. This is the second time Jaime has been awarded the Leo Award. His dedication to our youth does not go unnoticed.
Okay, if I can get the board to take a picture with him, please. Welcome. Okay, if you guys will look this way. Jen can scoot just a little. There we go. Right. There you go. 1, 2, and 3. Good job. And then Miss Alexander now. Yes. Y'all can stay. Kim, scoot in real quick. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then do you want to introduce who this is?
This was everybody that helped me this past year with all 3 sports, Jonas, Maddox, Alasia, and Michael. All 3 sports, it's a big group of kids each year, and I couldn't have done it without them. They were a great help all year, so thank you.
Yes, the board will go, and you guys can take a picture with him next, okay?
Is your team together?
One, two, three. Good job. Okay, let me take one with you real quick. Can you take a picture? Hi, can we take a picture of me and my baby?
Oh, Mama. No wonder what you were.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a video of this one?
No, not, no.
No. Well, you're gonna. Oh.
I have to do the video.
Okay. So you'll be with her reading. Oh.
Our next award goes to Candy Blair, and Superman is known as that one who can chase cars and faster than a speeding bullet and jumps high on buildings. And so we have for you tonight, I'm gonna get out of the way, a video of somebody saving a life here. That way they can see.
Okay, I guess I'm reading what is on the description, so that I'm not in the way of the camera view. So this is my incident documentation. So on 9/23/21, Jessica DeLeon, she happens to be here, our front office clerk and Candy Blair, assistant principal, were at morning drop-off duty. They typically come in at the bell at 7:45, but today we're held up talking to a parent on the front drive near the crosswalk to the parking lot. The stepmother of a grade 4 student pulled up right past the crosswalk to drop off her stepson at 7:58. He exited a Jeep and entered the building. The parent rolled down the driver's side window and called out to Jessica DeLeon that she didn't feel well. Jessica approached the car and told her to put the Jeep in park, and at that moment, the parent appeared to be having a seizure and hit the gas, accelerating. Hearing Jessica scream out, Miss Blair came running. She saw the parent's face and quickly assessed the situation, trying to open the driver's door. Seeing it was locked, she jumped on the running board and reached in over the mother. She was able to locate the gear shift and put it in park. The Jeep traveled about 60 feet, jumped the curb, and was stopped on the grass between the drop-off lane and the parking lot. The police driver on duty, Officer Audius, had just entered the building and came out hearing the commotion. He called in the incident, and Annabelle Medic 71 responded. The mother is expected and also she was expecting, and she also had a 1-year-old boy with her. Her husband was contacted and he gave permission to transport. The medics received permission to transport the child as well. And she left her keys and Candy moved her vehicle to be picked up by a family member later. And I know that a few days later, the mother was still in the hospital. They were still trying to figure out what happened to her. But it was a very spur of the moment jump into action. And we were very, very proud of her because if you see her coffee cup flying and she just jumped into action and didn't think twice. Thank goodness she's skinny mini and was able to get through that window because I could never have done that. So, but we're proud of her and we're blessed to have her on our admin team.
Presenting this
Quick
to you
thank
tonight. Quick thank you. Safety. Appreciate it so much. I'm gonna do like this.
John, go back.
Oh, sorry.
You popped in.
Got it. Okay, good job.
You want to do this, Jessica? You're the one who yelled.
Oh, my goodness.
Are you sure?
You jumped in there, you did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I get one with you on the board real quick?
Let's get ahead. What about it?
Can't make me get up.
It happens.
Come on, Jessica.
He brings back.
Just say come up here because I would have ran up there if you didn't yoga. I'll give you a popsicle.
Oh, my God.
3.
All right. One, 2, and 3. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
move into the discussion action item section of our meeting. And something that we always enjoy. The presentation, Campus Showcase, TM Intermediate 3rd through 5th grade. Christina Trevino, Principal.
I'm just gonna make sure I can see the whole. Let me see. It's not that easy because it was an hour a little bit. Yeah, but it goes down. I can just roll the mouse.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll see if the mouse wins or if I can win. So tonight is my campus's presentation. So intermediate is home to about 830 grade 3, 4, and 5 students, and we have about 80 staff members. Leading our tribe with me today, there's myself and my 2 assistant principals, Miss Candy Blair and Miss Yadira Cortez. Between us, we have many years of service and education. I'm with like 32 years and 16 and 8. So I just have to say that I am blessed with a wonderful team that what we care about is our students, and that's our main priority. Our campus theme this year, it resonates through our halls. So if you were to walk on our campus, you would see the muted color rainbows everywhere. And that our teachers know and our students that their future is a rainbow of possibilities. We believe in our children and we are dedicated to providing an excellent learning experience and allowing them to see that they have endless possibilities. So, our campus focus. It is, you know that we had a year last year and we hit the ground running with this year. And as we stepped back and looked, we saw some things that we knew we had to not just focus on instruction, but we needed to look at the whole child. But because before they can learn, we have to make sure that all of their needs are met. So our focus is on the whole child, which is targeting their social, emotional, and their individual instructional needs. Doing that, we know that we'll cultivate skills and environments that will advance the student's learning and development. So the whole child, so keep that one in mind. So as we go through, I'm going to discuss the social emotional learning first. So instrumental to this are our tribe counselors, which is Ms. Naranjo and Ms. Clevenger. So social emotional learning, just to explain, it's the process of developing the self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for school, work, and life success for the rest of their lives. So how are we going to do this? Well, we have our goal, and our counseling department has the head of that. They have planned, and we sit down and we plan together, and we discuss what skills are important to our students to become successful in all aspects of life. So they look at those skills, and what we do is through their guidance lessons, they push out this message, but that's not good enough. It has to resonate throughout the campus. It has to be across the board. Everybody has to understand how important it is. So we have a morning message time that's blocked into our schedule first thing in the morning, and it's paired with morning announcements, but this morning message is filtered through. So for example, if the topic is empathy, well, they provide lessons and videos and other things through morning message that the teachers will also reinforce. They can pick those up, and there's many lessons that are provided so that they can just take those up. And they can recognize when a student are practicing some of these skills, and they can acknowledge that. So part of this is they're building positive relationships. We are focusing on building positive relationships with each other, and it's not just with our students, our staff knows. We are building positive relationships with our parents, with community, with our students, with each other. So it doesn't just apply to our students. Because when we do this, our children thrive, the schools win, workplaces will benefit, society strengthens, and it's all going to be due to social emotional learning. Because when they're confident and when they feel safe, then they're going to learn. The other part of our focus is the instructional part. And I know that you have heard about win time, but I wanted to kind of focus on that a little bit. So win time is what I need time. Speaking to my colleagues in the area and speaking to actually some of our new staff that have come from other districts, what I found was this is something, and I don't want to say unique, but it's actually like a benefit. That our win time, it's a 60-minute block, but it's built into our master schedule. So it doesn't take away from any other instructional time. We've built it in, it's dedicated to that. So it revolves around a focus of learning, collaborative culture, and collective responsibility. It's data-driven, and it's a time when teachers personalize instruction to further meet the unique needs of each learner in every classroom. It is a period of reinforcement, support, and/or enrichment. And like I said, you've heard about WIN, and I'm going to kind of discuss a little bit more. You know that our district master schedule has PLC built into it where we have early release. So during PLC, what we do is we have instructional planning that's based on our data. It's based on improving instruction. So there are 4 critical questions in instruction planning, and those are, what do we want our students to learn? How are we going to know that they've learned it? What are we going to do when they haven't? And what are we going to do when they're proficient in that learning? Win time focuses on questions 3 and 4. So as we go into that, question 3, how are we going to respond when some students aren't learning it? That's our tier 2 and tier 3 students. So what we're going to do is we want to ensure that all students have mastered at a minimum the grade level expectations. Of course, we want them to go above, but at minimum to be proficient in the grade level expectation. Win time is our structure and process designed to target students who identify with critical question 3 in a specific skill the student hasn't mastered. This is also a time when students may leave for dyslexia, speech services, other related services, so that they're not being pulled out during their instructional block. They're being pulled out from what I need time, because that is what they need. Also on that is question 4. So what do we do when students have already are proficient with that skill? So when students have demonstrated mastery of a skill, they are provided the opportunities to deepen their knowledge and challenge them through enrichment learning opportunities. When students are mastering concepts, win time then becomes a time for extension, enrichment, application, and synthesis to real life learning. And we're pretty new to full implementation of WIN, but we have a goal this year to implement 2 additional enrichment activities, and I'm kind of excited about it. So if we can do these 2 things really well, then next year we can add. So one enrichment is we are going to, and Ms. McGee, our librarian, is on board and helping us to start planning it, but we are going to have pen pals in another school in another state so that they can learn from each other. And the culminating activity will be toward the end of the year, they'll get to meet their pen pal via Zoom. So they can talk about all kinds of different things, learn from each other, and see what it's like to be a student someplace else. Another enrichment that we're looking at is gardening. What better way than for them to have pride in something that they've done, so to grow something. And we're fortunate we have a huge property. So we're already getting with master gardeners. I have a couple of teachers who are, they have green thumbs. I told them I'm a master gardener accidentally, something will grow. But how exciting. So their culminating activity will be, what are we going to do with our product? So we could use it to cook. We could use it, there are so many possibilities. So these are just 2 that I'm super excited about. But once we kick these off, then we can kick off more. So we're looking at having them leave during that time if they've mastered and be able to do some of these things. And if you have any ideas or resources, let me know and we can add them to our list. Because we started, I don't sleep, so we started sewing and, I mean, all kinds of things started coming. I know the branch manager at a Navy Army, finance, basic, there's so many possibilities that we could do, and we're fortunate to be able to do that. And we really talked about it. We want every student to benefit from this. And so we know we have those students who are in need of intervention and they could use it every day, but they also deserve enrichment. So we are looking at creating our schedule to where we have a power hour and everybody can have an enrichment activity. So we're super excited about that. During enrichment, we also, our GT students also leave during that time. And I know our GT teacher, Mr. Tierney, he's amazing and he enriches them and they get excited. But I want you to know that a great school is one in which young people thrive in every sense of the word, the whole child. And so at our school, we understand that we play an essential role in helping young people develop socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. And I think Mr. Tierney is there. So what better way so you can see our kiddos, but we just want to thank you, but we have a little something for you and some of our GT students. So, let's see. Do you want, so, you want to come on in, or you want to get yours first? Okay, do you know where Mr. Holscher is? Look around.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Can you guess how it is?
There you go.
Thank you. There you go, my white
Mr. Lundine's not here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For their age.
Ooh, I don't know if we can be under reach. Thank you very much.
Show it.
Thank you so much.
You even have a black shirt on today.
Really good.
Don't put have horns on mine, I'm sure. That's it. Put it.
Thank you very much.
I think they captured all of you all pretty well.
Thank you.
Is your parents
And if you don't know, this is Mr. Tierney. He's our GT teacher.
Mr. Teneri. You got the masks now.
Okay, let me do one too.
Oh.
All right, okay, this way. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, if I can get the board with your pictures, and then we'll have you with your student. Oh, wait, no, let this one stay.
Don't let him run off.
So whoever's picture you go stand next to them, okay? Okay, go ahead and go.
There's a Donald Trump.
Who am I missing? And by whichever board member or superintendent. He didn't come? We're gonna have to.
When you needed access.
You put it on the chair. Yeah, he's coming. They're coming. Ready?
Oh, we're together, right?
Just here, okay, because he's not here tonight.
I don't know how to do it. Everybody together?
These costumes are close from mine.
Oh, because you want them all together in straight line?
No, the board will fill it in, and then we'll put the kid in, we'll put the kids in. Okay, board members, if y'all can come in.
Come in, we'll get
Just a
you.
little bit. I'm gonna get the tall ones, of course, in the back, and then we'll kind of scoot. You guys can step out more this way.
Hello. There you go. There you go.
Who's your student? Who drew this picture?
Oh, that student's not here.
Richard's the one who handed it to me.
Okay, so you can stand. Mr. Helcher has his student. Kim, I'm gonna have to move you to the front. Miss Costello, same thing.
Kids are taller than me.
Mr. Costello, you're your student? Okay, where is, are you Mr. Helcher's? Okay, I'm gonna put you right here in the middle. Where's your student? Right here? Okay, we're good, we're good? Ms. Sikora, you have yours? Okay, we're gonna have to come this way because.
We're gonna do the wide.
Okay, here we go. Okay, if I could get you to scoot in just a little bit more, please. Just let us scoot in. She doesn't bite, I promise, she's very sweet. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Good job, guys, thank you.
Y'all did an awesome I can so used to hiding my face.
Okay, I'll see you.
We'll replace our picture in the front spot with me. Put that on there.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's what makes it all worth it.
Yes. Kiddos. Okay, our next item is discuss and consider certification of tax levy for the tax year 2021. Mr. Clerk.
All right, Philip, did you want to explain?
Yeah, this is just an annual thing. Once the appraisal does the appraisal, they send everything to the county, the tax assessor collector, and they just ask that the board approve. This is the levy for this year based upon our tax rate that we adopted, based upon our appraised tax values at the beginning of this, or from July. So it's really just a formality of just accepting the tax levy for this year. The tax rate's correct. That is the values that they're starting off the year. All the statements went out at the beginning of the month. Everybody's property taxes.
Thank you. Ms. Cora.
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the certification of tax levy for the tax year 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Cora. Do we have motion on administrative recommendation? Chad makes a motion. Kim seconds. Any comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Item is discuss and consider delegation of authority to superintendent under Chapter 49.
Chapter 49 is what we used to call Chapter 41, sometimes known as the Robin Hood, and they changed the chapter number on us, so it's the same thing. Philip, you want to add to
So
that?
basically what this is, we do this every year. Every year they notify us in the summer that it looks like your wealth pursuit, your property wealth per student looks like you're going to be subject to Chapter 49, which means we have to send some of our money, some of our tax money back to the state. This is just every year, even though we had an election to approve this, every year we have to submit a contract saying that we will send our excess money back. So now they kind of do everything online. So what you're doing tonight is you're granting the superintendent the authority to approve the Chapter 49 contract for this year. And what we do is, once the minutes are approved from this meeting, we upload everything to TEA, and that's how we approve, that's how we submit that you have approved this. But basically, you're delegating tonight the superintendent the authority to do that. And that specific language, that paragraph has to be in the minutes for us to do that. But basically, this is the formality that they make us do every year. And like I said, we've been, for the last few years, our Chapter 49 payments hovered around $550,000. It's a little over $500,000 that we send back every year. But this is what we have to do every year. We have to approve to send our money back. Is basically what it is.
Just a formality.
And purchase attendance credits is, I don't know where they came up with that language, but that means send your money back.
Okay, it's the administration's recommendation that for the 21-22 school year, that the board delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code 11.1511C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, subchapters A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. The authority includes approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit.
Thank you, Ms. Gore. I'll make that motion for the 2021-2022 school year. We delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code 11.1511C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, subchapters A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. This authorization includes approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credits. Do we have a second on the motion, please?
I'll say.
Okay, Ben seconds it. Okay, all those any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Discuss and consider continued agreement with corporate strategies. Mr. Gore.
All right. Patrick has been in touch with Cooperative Strategies, and we'll tell you about that.
Okay, first of all, I apologize. We were scheduled to have Scott Newell here from Cooperative Strategies, but he wasn't able to make it. We established a Zoom link, but we're having some communication problems. So I should be able to answer all your questions, but if we do need to ask them any questions, we can contact Scott and make contact with them. Just to proceed, the district negotiated with Cooperative Strategies back in December of 2020. The goal or the contract was to do a full facility assessment and then report back and establish a rapport with the community and see what the future of TM was going to look like. And then from that, determine if a bond was necessary. And the target date at that time was a bond for May 2022. All right. However, in July, the project came to a halt, and that's when we were to begin the community involvement in this project. We've basically been idle for 4 months right now, so that has really put us behind the timeline schedule. Doing a May 2022 election would be almost impossible now. We couldn't fully get the community involvement and assess all the items that we need and get a proper dollar figure for an amount that we need to go. So the next possible bond date would be November of 2022. However, during that election period, there are 4 board members that are up for election during that period, so it doesn't make sense to use that date for a bond election. The next possible bond election would be May of 2023. That is a great date. However, that would put us out of the negotiated contract period with Cooperative Strategies. It just goes beyond the length of their contract. So at this time, we're faced with basically 3 options, which I've outlined here. We could terminate the contract. Option number 1 would be to terminate the contract with the 2 payments totaling of $16,170 that have already been paid out of a $49,500 contract. We have spoke with Cooperative Strategies, and if we want to part ways, basically what we've already paid is it. It would not cost us any more to walk away. All right. The second option would be to proceed with a May 2022 or November 22 bond election, which really aren't good dates to do. The third option is to freeze the contract for now and resume work in the summer of 2022 for a May 2023 bond election. Cooperative Strategies is willing to freeze our account, and that's basically what they've done to our account for the last 4 months, is just put us on a freeze status. So this would allow us to go through, and then in the summer of 2022, Probably have to do a little bit of facility assessment corrections because some things have changed. It'll be a whole year. And then start with the community involvement and make the proper timeline to make a May 2023 bond. All right.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Patrick. I was thinking, oh, Philip, how that's going to work. Okay. Comments, questions?
We kind of already started with them, and they've already done our facilities
That's what I was going to say.
walkthrough. They already know what we need. In my opinion, the freeze would be better than just walking away from a company. We would have to bring someone new in to do the same work that they've already done.
And I doubt we could negotiate a contract for that price again. It's going to be considerably more.
Yeah, because freezing would be the best option from what I can understand.
From the, when they talked to us about all our buildings, they really didn't have any need for a bond election.
The actual work, no, for the actual building maintenance, no, we could probably do it with just a maintenance note.
And there was no growth? They showed no growth?
There was no growth, but we would be, what they're working on is classroom size and what the community favors. If they favor small classrooms like we currently have, then we would need more facilities. If we would up our classroom size and bring the secondary levels up to around 20, 25 students per class or more, then we don't need any facilities. But really, right now, we're busting at the seams at the primary.
Right.
We're 100 kids away, a little bit over 100 kids away from maxing out the building. So there is going to be a need for facilities. Right now, COVID has kind of saved us because it's keeping our numbers kind of flat. But I assume that once we recover and the houses are continuing to get built in the area, so we're going to look. I was talking with Philip, and I think we're going to be behind the curve on a May 2023 bond because we're looking at about 2025 before we actually have another building built in place. So we're probably going to at one point possibly looking at portables.
And there's other issues, we talked about, it doesn't necessarily have to do with population growth, but what do we want to do for our CTE program? What do we want to do for our athletic facilities? It's other things, it's not just, planning for explosive growth, and we need, it's really like what they finished with, what do we want our classrooms to look like for the next 10 to 15 years? We're thinking ahead of the time, so what do we want the classroom of the future? We got to try to figure out what we want. And
not only that, there's lots of land itself, available land itself right now. They're getting more and more houses on them. Unless somebody's willing to sell some farmland around us.
Well, they were saying that there was no land that didn't have pipes going through it.
Exactly.
They're putting the pipes in now.
Yeah. So I have to agree that the freeze, one, for the cost. We're going to be faced with something very.
Is there a minimum amount of time that we can freeze or a maximum amount of time?
The maximum would be, if we were to go past May of 2023, there would be a small fee increase that we haven't negotiated yet.
But there's not a minimum?
There's not a minimum.
Okay.
So they're willing to go to May 20, okay.
Yes.
Just with the money we've paid them right now.
push till that date and then start up again with the remainder of the contract. Because like you said, we've only paid $16,000 so far.
33,000.
So with the things that were urgent right now, Patrick, could we get those taken care of, like in-house?
We're gonna have to just make do. We'll have to do it in-house. If there were for some unforeseen absolute emergency, then we could go out for a maintenance note. But the preferred way is to go through bond.
Yeah. But it sounds like the options, they're doing us a favor here because we know there's the individual that was our agent left the company. So that kind of dropped everything, unfortunately. But I think that freeze option is the best one because it not only will save us some money, but it gives us some time to restart and get it going again. Plus the fact that, we are going to experience growth. It's just a matter, like everybody says, finding the land is going to be the next hard thing. But
the only thing I'd like to add, Patrick, is to what Paul's saying, because he's right. We're going to have to just start looking now and kind of develop all that. But one of the things that I think I'd like to go back to is, one of the things that got me on the board was I was able to do a walkthrough when we passed the science wings. We were able to do a walk through the facility, if you remember, Paul, y'all. Well, I was part of the committee that y'all invited, but, you know, kind of so that maybe the community could see what we're looking at, because, you know, nobody likes to spend money. I mean, let's just get real.
That's what that's what those focus groups are going to be doing.
Right,
all that
yeah, I
stuff.
was part of the focus group as well.
Yeah, they get into.
I mean, if we could just bring that back, maybe that'd be something we could.
Yeah, and that's the intent, to have the directs and everything that we did before. It involves site visits, so once we establish it, this is what we're looking for, then let's go look and see who has the best and what we can pick and choose from the different campuses, just like we did for the baseball fields, the ag barn. We'll definitely do site visits and everything.
Okay.
Comments or questions?
It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees freeze the contract with Cooperative Strategies and resume a timeline for a May 2023 bond election if needed.
Thank you, Ms. Court. Do we have a motion on the administrative recommendation, please? John and Ben seconds, okay. Okay, any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Discuss and consider the New Essex County Appraisal District Board of Directors 2022-2023 126 election.
You skip one?
You skipped one.
You skipped the check.
Oh, yeah. I said maybe when I wrote something down, the wrong one. Discuss and consider the approval of School Health Advisory Council, the SHAC Committee members.
The rules for having the School Health Advisory Council have changed, and Patrick is going to be updating us and has a meeting planned this week.
Just quickly, SHAC was founded in 1995 under House Bill 1, under the 74th legislative session. Y'all are aware of SHAC, it's been around for a long time. Basically, it's program planning regarding student health and then promoting student health, and they're required to do a yearly report to the school board. The bills that have changed recently require that the board approve the membership of the committee. Also, some things that changed is we must post the signs. When you walked in this evening, you may have seen that the SHAC meeting for this Thursday is posted out there. So we have to post it on the building, on our website, just like a board meeting. We're required to follow the same meetings. It's also on the website. In addition, we're required to, at the very minimum, do audio recording of the SHAC meetings and post them on our website. So we will actually do them in here, and just like our board, we will post audio and video of these SHAC meetings on our website to meet the requirements. One of the other requirements, it's been like this and we've had a difficult time, is there really should be more, there's supposed to be more parent and community members than staff members. So if you look at the spreadsheet that's attached, that shows our committee members. And we've reached out to the community, and I've talked to these people, and I really hope that they're committed to these 4 meetings so that we get there. So I'm going to recommend that you approve this list tonight. However, if I don't have enough, if these people don't commit, I may have to come back to you with an alternate list at a future meeting to make sure that we have enough parents, enough of the numbers to exceed the number of employees that are in the committee.
The dates are wrong on this. The year.
Oh, 2022. Okay, we'll fix it. I wanted it to stay 2021.
Oh, you understand the same year?
Still younger than me, right? What's the name of it? Denise, D-E-N?
Yes, well, we caught that one.
Okay. It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the list of Student Health Advisory Council members as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Do we have a motion on administrative recommendation, please? Ben made a motion, Kim seconds. Comments or questions?
That's with the corrections, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
with the corrections.
Right.
This is just a list
Right.
of names and everything, but that's the 2022 year. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no other comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed?
I voted for, yes.
Did you have a question?
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, okay. We'll do that
I
again.
fell asleep there.
All those in favor?
Yes, right.
Those opposed?
Now Jen can go.
I abstain because my name's on the committee consideration, so I'm abstaining from the vote.
Okay. The motion carries 5 with 1 abstention. Get closer so I can make sure I can read this now. Now we go to discuss and consider the Nueces County Appraisal District Board of Directors 2022-23 term, place 6 election ballot nominee.
All right, we have 2 people on here. Leo Gonzalez, who's the incumbent, and the nominating entity is the City of Aransas Pass, and Erasmo Eddie Martinez from Tolosa Midway. We have to select either one person or divide the votes up to show our support for whomever you're wishing to. You see on the next sheet of paper, it has how many votes we have. 280 votes.
Well, since this is actually board action on that, y'all want to vote on the ones individually? In other words, call the name out and say who's for them?
I guess that'd be the
I nominated Eddie, so.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, you know, because there may be.
I didn't know
some
Leo was there, but I nominated Eddie. So.
Yeah, well, I didn't know there was an incumbent, so
Yeah.
it wasn't on the list when it came to it, so we didn't have a choice. So we'll do that to be fair to both of the nominees. Okay. All those in favor of Leo Gonzalez, the incumbent? All those in favor of Eddie Martinez? Okay.
Just abstain from this.
Abstain. Okay, so the board votes for Eddie Martinez. Buenísimo. Unanimously. Board, I'll make sure you know one again. Discuss and consider update of non-Chapter 21 contract positions.
Anna?
Yes. Back in March of 2021, we brought forward the changing of a policy that with board approval, you allow the district to offer non-Chapter 21 contracts to staff members whose positions are critical in the operation of the district, but they are not certified educators, like Patrick, Philip. They're critical to the operation, but they don't have a certificate, so we could not issue them an educator contract. In the policy itself, on the advice of TASB, they said, do not list the positions that you offer non-Chapter 21 contracts to within the policy. Because if you change it, then it's going to require 2 readings. However, they also said that in the policy itself said that you would approve any changes or updates or additions to any new positions. So the positions that you approved back in March was the business manager, assistant business manager, assistant superintendent for district operations, speech pathologist, assistant speech pathologist, licensed specialist in school psychology, and athletic trainers. And we would like to update that list and bring forward 2 more positions that are made possible for the emotional and social aspect of students. And that money would come from ESSER 3. They will put in the plan. And those 2 positions are that of social worker and a licensed professional counselor. So we would like to recommend that with Mr. Sikora that we do an update on this list. Any questions?
What is the difference between the licensed specialist in school? I know what a PLC is, but I don't know what that, I mean, why would we have put that in and not put the professional licensed counselor at that time? I mean,
We did not have that position planned.
Never had an
We
LPC.
never
No, we
had
never
one.
had an
You never
LPC.
had, I
No, we
thought that's
never
what that
had one.
Dr. Allen did or something like that, the contracted guy.
That was a contract service. This would be actually.
Oh, this would be in-house.
This would be employed for the
Oh,
school.
okay, I'm sorry, okay.
Add to our list of
Yes.
those.
Well, is that something we're gonna strongly consider?
Yes.
What,
Mhm. As a matter of fact, we're bringing forward the name of a licensed social worker this evening.
will she or he serve the entire district?
Right now, it's just focused on the elementary levels.
Okay.
So that's 5 down or 6 down? When you say elementary?
From the primary and the intermediate school.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold, we appreciate that.
It's the administration's recommendation that the board approve adding the social worker and licensed professional counselor positions to the list of positions who are eligible to receive a non-Chapter 21 contract.
Thank you, Ms. Sikora.
Also leaving that.
Yeah. Don seconds it.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? We'll leave it LPC, right?
Are we gonna, include a social worker in the future, or is that
That's the one we're bringing forward tonight, the social worker.
the social worker or the LPC?
The social worker we're bringing forward tonight.
Oh, okay,
I understand.
I get it.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Now, we move on to discuss and consider board self-evaluation and superintendent evaluation instrument.
Okay, by now you've had an opportunity to look at these instruments, and they are basically designed off of Texas Association of School Boards models. I did take out some of the lines for comments because it was taking up too much room on the space. I know that sometimes boards don't want to write comments, but you certainly can. There's enough blank space there, but there is room at the end to make your comments. I tried to make the superintendent evaluation and the board member self-evaluation pretty much the same, where you're looking at a group, for example, in the superintendent one, and the way you can tell they're different is I changed the TM symbol on different sides of your paper. So if it's over on the left, it's superintendent evaluation. If it's over on the right, it's the board evaluation. And like the first one is, what is your practice and relationship with the superintendent? You read all of those sentences, and then you put a check in the box. And then you would come together later on, after you evaluate yourself, and you would talk to each other about that evaluation. And I'm not in the room when you do that, so that you're just talking to each other about how you feel about things. And I don't ever take it up, and it's strictly confidential. It's something that the board does for themselves. And then on the superintendent evaluation form, it's a little bit different. Again, it's exceptional, proficient, or needs improvement. But you have the general headings, and then you read all of the information there, and you put a check in the box. Tried to make it fairly simple, but you are certainly allowed to make comments in each area. And then at the end, there's a summary where we can, board president can add up how many said exceptional, how many said proficient, how many needs improvement, and tally it up. And then it becomes the official record. Since I'm an interim, it's not absolutely required that you evaluate me, but I think it would be good as an instructional piece to go through it. So we start setting the pattern for when the new person comes, you'll already have some forms and a calendar. Any questions?
On the school board one,
Uh-huh.
appraisal period is November 1st, 2020 to November 1st, 2021?
Yes.
That's correct? Okay.
Is that can be changed?
I don't know, because like two of our board members wouldn't have been here during that time.
Well, then they would just evaluate, they would scratch that out and put when they started.
Okay. I just don't know what the correct, I mean, is there certain dates they have to be, or is it just?
No, it could be from when they began.
I can't know.
Just really one board member.
Well, he was there.
Whenever he gets here, just pick up from there. Yes. Any other comments or questions?
When do you want these back?
No, they'll send out stuff.
Well, for the board self-evaluation, what I wanted to do is have a meeting with you to go over it more in depth and to go through the board operating procedures. I've taken the one you have and I've added more policies from your policy to the board operating procedures. And I would like to have a night where we kind of go through that. I know you are getting fatigued on having so many meetings because I was proposing November 1st, but we can certainly change that. And then you could mark it in that particular meeting. And then the next time we have a board meeting, then you would meet in closed session. It takes some time to do this, and I think it's worthwhile that you not rush when you're looking at a self-evaluation or a superintendent evaluation. It's certainly be worth the time.
These aren't the official forms that we fill out, correct?
They are.
Well, they can be. If you want to take them out, you can. You're going to take them home.
Okay.
We usually do this in a board workshop together. So
Yes, we would do it in a board workshop together. And then you would have a chance to go into closed session and discuss. But what I would propose doing on November 1st or the following Monday is to do your board team building, and I'm willing to do that for you. Do a fun activity for team building. We would discuss this and the board operating procedures. So maybe, it would be 3 things.
we would get our team building.
Yes.
That'll be on November 1st, correct?
Yes, but that's right after intercession. And I know y'all are getting tired of all the meetings, so if you wanted to move it out, we can certainly move it to November 8th or move it closer to Thanksgiving.
Well, activities, the closer you get to
I know.
Thanksgiving, the more people are involved in all the activities and, you know.
November 1st for me sounds good, because don't we have a board meeting the following week because of Thanksgiving? Or 2 weeks, 18th?
Yeah, it's November 15th.
So at least it keeps us a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. November 1st, and then our other board meeting is the 15th.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it.
All right.
Yeah, because that would be, I've been saying, and we're all agreeing to is, we get this going, and then, because next thing you know, Thanksgiving's gonna be here. Everybody's gonna be involved with, there's school activities, there's family activities, and business activities, and everything going on.
Okay, and the superintendent's evaluation is actually 4 parts. The first part is the TEA's commissioners' test scores, where we put in the STAR scores. Then part 2 is priority performance goals, which, since I'm new with you, I don't really have any of those, but we'll talk about what you think those might be for an incoming superintendent. Part 3 is actually the instrument for your approval tonight with the boxes. And part 4 is developing new goals for the superintendent. Okay.
Okay. And your recommendation?
It's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the board self-evaluation and the superintendent evaluation instruments as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Corner. Motion on administrative recommendation.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Kim, do we have a second, please? Stephen, comments, questions? Something that needs to be done and developed, and November 1st, we'll discuss it even further, correct?
Yes.
But it gives us time to look at it and read it and think about it.
And if there's any changes to the forms, we can do that on November 1st.
Yeah, if there's anything that we can work with.
This just gives us a good start.
Yes. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Okay, report, District of Innovation.
Okay, Dr. White's going to take us through the information. It is not an action item.
No action needed, just the report, but I'm here to present for you all tonight, members of the board, the process by which a district becomes a district of innovation. I know as of late, we've heard this term being used on several occasions, but this term is not just a term, but it's an actual designation a district can proceed forward with and obtain if they so choose. So, a couple questions to kind of get us all on the same page. What is a DOI, a District of Innovation? Well, it was established by the 84th Texas Legislature, and the DOI concept provides local communities the opportunity to decide how they can best deliver their district's goals, moving away from mandated compliance to innovative possibilities. And so when I hear and think about the term district school of choice, this totally aligns and resonates with District of Innovation because the key word there is choice. Local control and choice over some key provisions that at the local level, if we decide that we would like to kind of do some things differently, we have that ability to do so. And so why would you want to become a District of Innovation? And like I said, a District of Innovation may adopt a plan that includes exemptions from most of the same state laws that are not applicable to open enrollment charter schools. And so when you think of charter schools, you think of innovation, you think of more flexibility and control. The District of Innovation designation is similar to what we think of charter schools, but at the same time, as a public entity, we kind of gain that ability to be just like them in a lot of ways. By them, I mean charter schools. And so what are some of the exemptions from laws? Well, some of these may include uniform school start date, class size ratio, minimum minutes of instruction, 90% attendance rule, student discipline provisions, teacher appraisal system, teacher certifications, teacher contracts, teacher benefits, and site-based decision-making. That's just a few of a comprehensive list that was included for you all in the board packet. And again, not all these possibilities will be right for TMISD. It is up to the DOI committee to determine what laws to exempt ourselves from and which to leave in place. And again, the key word there is by committee. So this is a collaborative process. And again, will designation as a DOI impact district policy? Yes, policy changes will correlate with innovation plan changes. As the innovation plan is developed by the committee, the district will evaluate necessary changes to our policies. And so that's just some background, some questions answered. So what does the process look like? It's a pretty straightforward, about 5-step process. So in order to go ahead and get started, we have 2 options. Board resolution or the district advisory committee, the DEIC, can go ahead and propose a similar resolution. But typically you see the board bringing the resolution forward. If and when the board resolution is brought forward, a public hearing by the school board will be given. From there, the board will appoint a committee. The board can either decide to create a new DOI committee, or they can rely on the district site-based decision-making committee. Either one will work. And they will be tagged with creating that comprehensive education program with the innovations, and of course, being mindful of the list of education code provisions to be exempt from. And so once the committee is nominated, once they're formed, and they are working to create and develop the plan. From there, once the plan is brought forward, in order to approve the plan must be posted online for 30 days for public comment. Then the board will notify the commissioner of their intent to vote on the proposed plan after 30 days. And then from there, the district advisory committee or whomever the board has decided to tag to put together the plan will hold a public meeting in order to pass the plan by majority votes. From there, gets brought back, and then upon completion of all those last 3 steps, the school board will approve the final plan by 2/3 majority votes. And so what I did was, this is the TEA's flow chart for the process. I broke it out into each individual step to kind of give you a clear idea of what this looks like. And then for us as a district, a possible timeline of events, just kind of reworking back through the flow chart. Tonight, we're starting with the presentation to you all. And then from there would come the board resolution, which would follow a public hearing. Board will appoint a committee. The committee develops the plan. We post online. Board notifies the commissioner. We allow for public comments and any adjustments needed to the plan. Then the board will vote, and then we can begin operating as a DOI district. And then in doing so, we just need to be mindful of any local policies that will need to be updated in order to make sure that what we have changed as a DOI district matches what we have in our current policy. Are there any questions?
Go back to the slide that says District of Innovation FAQs.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
If we can kind of go through this. A lot of schools adopted the uniform school start date because they didn't want to go along with the state requiring you to start school the last Monday in August. They wanted to start before that. But since we're year-round, that really doesn't apply to us because we're already in that designation of year-round school. We're going to start in July anyway, so that doesn't change. Class size ratio, we're still 1 to 22, but what some schools have done, they'll say, well, if they have 23 or 24 students, they're not going to build a new school. They're going to have those students in there, and that may not be popular with teachers. I'm not sure where the minimum minutes of instruction would be.
We'd have to look at that specifically. These are just very general areas that we can look at. Doesn't mean we have to choose from that area. There's a list of possibilities that from the committee through a collaborative process we would discuss and weigh the pros and cons of each. All I know is that from my experience here and from working with my colleagues, teacher contracts and teacher certifications, specifically for like CTE, in terms of being able to hire what we would feel would be the most highly qualified candidate, even if they did not have a specific certification, but we knew based on their years of experience in industry or just overall content expertise, knowing that what we feel would be the best fit for our students. Being a DOI district would allow us to entertain and bring forward a recommendation, even if they didn't meet the current certification criteria. We could work around that and put a plan in place so that that does not become the reason why we can't hire whom we would feel might be the best for our students at that time. And the majority of the districts who are currently a DOI designated district rely on that heavily. And as you all know right now, with the teacher shortage and just higher, more specific needs when it comes to CTE and even some of our advanced academic courses, being a DOI district that has that flexibility allows us to do some different things and to plan a little bit better in terms of, just having that flexibility in place if and when that becomes something we need to talk about.
So what you're saying is that we could have non-certified teachers teaching core courses.
What I'm saying is that there would be a plan in place for them to become certified, but relying on their either their industry experience or their content expertise, whatever we would want to create and put in place for our DOI designation, that would just be something we would all have to agree upon. And if it's not agreed upon, then it just wouldn't be included. But like I said, it just allows us greater flexibility if we were not able to find somebody certified in the moment. But for instance, we found somebody who was a great candidate. We knew them personally, strong references, but they just weren't currently certified. We would put them on a plan in order to get certified while they were being hired originally. Does that make sense?
Didn't we do that already for some CTE employees?
Yes.
Yes,
with,
that has been a long-term CTE allowable thing.
You can apply for a district permit like you did that you all approved for that.
Right, because like an engineer would be better off in an engineer class teaching the class some of the times, depending on what level they're at, or physics, or whatever that might be. But on a regular level, I mean, I think we need to have certified teachers at our core levels. I just want to make sure that we don't lose that vision of having certified teachers in those classrooms.
No, not at all. In fact, you're required to look first for certified teachers, but this is just a flexibility piece that allows you to do some different things if that certified person was not able to be found.
So, Dr. Ward, what's the difference between this innovation and actually a charter school then?
There really isn't a whole lot of difference because we are still bound by the same provisions and policies by the state. But like I said, what makes charter schools a little bit different than public schools are these flexibilities within some of these provisions.
Now that this is being allowed, I mean, it seems like, I mean, not trying to be a, you know, I guess in the sense, I mean, not fully understanding the word discover. I know we have the capability of doing emergency certifications and things like that, which is allowed through the education system. But this actually says we're gonna broaden that out even more so, and we're gonna get community involvement to where the school now goes through committee. So, you know, kind of like a city council overview of how the district will be.
Educating children.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying not to say that because I really want the teachers to know, I mean, we really want them to do it. You know, I mean, we're not trying to replace anybody, but with that broadness, you would have that, because you have that committee now hiring, you know.
Well, no, the committee would be hiring anybody.
They'll be recommending.
The committee, what we're talking about right now, is just the committee that would be together to collaborate on developing this plan, which has very prescriptive steps and procedures that is, the committee would be bound by. So they wouldn't be able to just create something out of nowhere. There's very strict guidelines that are required to be followed in terms of what can be exempt and what cannot be exempt. And nothing has to be chosen from this list. We could only have to choose one or two. That would just be part of that collaborative process. And this, like I said, this list up here is not exhaustive, but I did include that in your board packet. So if you wanted to look at what we could opt out of, or what you want to look at in terms of what we cannot opt out of, like special education and the federal guidelines, we can't go anywhere near that. That has to stay in place.
So Dr. White, who would be on the committee? Like, would that be?
It would be, think about it in terms of what we have currently as our district site-based decision-making. A lot of districts just tag them to be the ones responsible, or you all can create a specific committee solely for this purpose. And if you were to go that route, the rules that the district site-based committee has to follow would be the same rules that this DOI committee, for instance, would follow.
And who governs this? Is this still governed by TEA?
And on the class size, some of the things I've read about District of Innovation is they pack the classes, like 30, 35 to 1.
Well, I don't think we would ever want.
So do we have that choice to put a limit?
We could put a limit.
But our rooms wouldn't stand for that.
Right.
No, I don't think we have a room big enough right now.
See,
In any of our buildings.
what your committee would do is they would look at the laws like you have here. These are the laws we are bound by, and determine, is this good for Tolosa Midway or not? So we're not going to pick everything on the list and just change the whole district and make you like a charter school. We're not doing that. We're probably going to pick two, and how it looks on the form that gets posted on the website and sent to TEA is you quote the law, then you say, here is a problem, you know, like teacher shortage, not being able to find certain subjects, and then your reply, how you're going to do that. You know, even with the hiring, you could delegate all the hiring to the superintendent. And that way then you're not doing it. Well, that probably wouldn't be something you'd want to do. And so we would have to bring things to you and get your input on it.
I mean, there would definitely have to be some education on what each one of these things means, because I did go online and look some of this stuff up. And some of this stuff is very scary to me, having a kid in the classroom. And it's very scary for educators. I read on the teacher appraisal system, from what I read, that becomes an I and not a team. And I don't want our educators to ever feel like they're on their own. We need to all be working as a team. So like you said, it's not going to be all of this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in here that I think is taking family out of it.
So just to kind of, now that I've heard some conversations going, to kind of go back to like the teacher contract exemption. So for instance, the way some districts use the teacher contract exemption is to allow a teacher who may be certified 8 through 12 to teach at the 7th grade level. See, so they're still certified, but they're not quite within that range that the certification designates them for. But because of the exemption to the rule, they would be allowed to teach 7th grade because perhaps maybe a principal or we've decided that this teacher is really needed there. But instead of making them go and get a certification to get that 7th grade level, we could just move them down and have them teach there instead of having to go through all the kind of red tape paperwork to get them there. So that's one way to do it. And there's several ways to look at it from that perspective as well. Like social studies composite teachers versus just single social studies certifications. Little differences like that you know, can make or break a master schedule for a campus principal.
Do you know how many schools in ES2 that do?
I don't know specifically for ES2, but overall, I want to say we have about 1,200 districts in the state, and around 900 to 950 are DOI districts. So I would say between 85 and 90% of the districts in the state of Texas already are DOI districts. This has been around for a long time too.
So we would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if we go DOI, do we lose our all year-round schooling?
No.
We couldn't go back to all and get rid of DOI though, could you?
What do you mean?
Okay, so we're year-round school, and we're under this grandfathered clause, and if we change to DOI, and then we say, oh, this is not what we want, we can't go back to that, could we? Because
we just wouldn't change it. It wouldn't be part of our DOI designation because we're already currently year-round. We just wouldn't be messing with the calendar or anything like that since we've kind of already taken.
But once
care
you
of
lose all your schooling, that you're under that, you're not going to be able to go back to it if you go change it to something else.
Well, I don't think we would be changing, unless you're asking, would we change that?
Well, I mean, you're changing to DOI right now. What if later you say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore? You can't go back to just all your schooling. You have to go back to regular school.
He's talking about losing the grandfathered clause.
Yeah, you'll lose the grandfathered clause, correct?
Year-round school. That's what he's referring to. If you go
Because
to
of
the
the start
District
date?
of Innovation.
Well, once you switch
I don't
to,
think that applies, sir.
You don't think so?
If we don't select
We wouldn't
that
select
item,
it.
it doesn't apply to us.
We just wouldn't.
When the District of Innovation plan first came out, the majority of the school districts in Texas who are doing this
Right.
went to it because they could start earlier and they could go from a traditional calendar to a year-round calendar.
because the
like
year-round
we are.
calendar got taken away from them.
Correct.
And so-
Only the grandfathered in
Right.
can
We,
keep doing
the
it.
ones that selected that, then they could make decisions.
But we wouldn't have to select that since.
Right, right. We can only select specific ones.
Yeah, we're not gonna select that one.
We don't want to mess with the calendar, so that would not be appropriate for Tolosa Midway.
We need to make
Parents
sure
and
of
teachers.
that.
I don't think so.
Well, if you don't
That would
select
be off the
it,
table.
You don't select it, you don't, that's one of the things you don't
We keep
consider.
it like it is.
Yeah.
See, charter schools have that flexibility, and they can hire teachers without being certified or without a contract.
Another question, John.
Not that
Maybe
we
it will
want to
help.
do that.
Sure.
When you bring the resolution forward to the board, do they decide which one of those areas they would like
They
to
can
go
definitely
for?
have input on it,
So
for
you
sure.
could say, I approve this resolution for these areas, and you could leave out the calendar or whatever, or the certification or contracts or whatever it is that you don't want the committee to address?
I think we just all need to be educated more, and that would help.
Right, well,
And just like the community's gonna need to be educated about it also. We can't just,
I think we should have a
This is
workshop
what we're
over
gonna
that
do.
before we bring it to a vote. Because,
I
I
don't think
mean,
tonight's enough education.
when I don't think
No, we're not.
November bring it to a vote would be.
simple overview of the process and just what it looks like and kind of the timeline. As you all will note, just based on the proposed timeline, it doesn't take a long time to put this together to bring it forward for approval. We can definitely bring more information to you all so that you are well aware of what all this is, and all the exemptions and the details behind all that. I did try to include for you guys 2 separate documents along with this presentation. One document has the opt-outs and where you can kind of opt out of the exemptions, and then of course, the opposite, which are the non-negotiables, what we cannot opt out of. So just kind of like the rule book and the guidelines for what we can have flexibility with and what we cannot.
Dr. Ward, just one last question. Is there in this area, is there a school in this area? There's 3 in this area?
Cal Allen's one.
Cal Allen, Flower Bluff, and New Portland.
LSIC,
And Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi, Mathis, GP
Yeah,
is.
GP, Flower Bluff.
So,
Bluff is
can
one.
we ask the audience? Can we, he comes
you can
from
ask.
the district.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can ask.
Can you educate us a little bit on this?
Sure, so for let's say junior and senior mathematics, which is a hard math to find, like what happened with us this year, we went after a college professor
True.
who we hired to be a senior level math teacher. It took us a month, 2 months to get her squared away, to get her paid as a teacher, where this would allow somebody, so you could put something in the provision that they would have had to teach at Del Mar College for 5 years before we even looked at them. But it gives us that option, like if we were looking for a welding teacher, well, we pay more than Del Mar College does for professors. So it gets us in a competitive market to where we can hire a welding teacher who's been teaching at Del Mar, who's got tons of experience, where trying to find an ag mechanics major is extremely hard to find.
yeah.
It also lets us, like if we're doing nursing, we can hire a nurse with 20 years of experience who might not be a certified teacher because there's no terminating degree. If you're getting a bachelor's in nursing, you're making way more money than you would be teaching. So, having to do that, you might go after a retired nurse or so on and so forth. So it does help with that aspect. Some of the other things he was talking about, we used it to evaluate teachers changing their by law. You have a teacher who is coming with, like, say, 10 years of experience. By law, if they come with that amount of experience, we have to give them a 2-year contract, a continuing contract that makes it a little harder to evaluate them in the right amount of time. So what GP did was they said, we're going to make every teacher give us 3 years on a probationary contract, no matter how many years of experience. So if that time frame came where we had to cut our losses, or maybe that program didn't make, then we could use the probationary contract to downsize if need be. So that's how they used it. They also exempted themselves out of the 90-10 rule for attendance. So that helps with UIL eligibility and things of that nature. So it lets us make up minutes in different ways. That's the committee's work. It makes it a very flexible situation, but for hiring, knowing what we went through this summer, trying to get people being able to go after those Del Mar professors and those Coastal Bend College professors that have teaching experience, makes life easier, especially on the CTE side.
Which makes sense.
And of course, like what Mr. Alfaro was saying, it empowers also our current staff members to help us in the recruitment of some of these industry partners or leaders who they know, but they know that they would never really come because they got to get certified, they have to do so many X hours, and it's just a whole bunch of hoops to jump through for someone who might be already established at a business where hearing all that, they don't want to leave, but if they knew that there was flexibility for them to come and that they didn't have to, go straight back to college or find thousands of dollars to pay for this, and we would work with them as a district and we could cut through all that red tape, it just makes us more appealing to come to because we've got great programs.
Right.
but not everybody wants to go through the hassles of what education sometimes does, which is certifications and everything else. So it just really, really helps with that. Plus, it just helps us as administrators to be more mindful and purposeful with our staffing. We just can do a lot more strategy, and it gives us a better idea of long-term projections in terms of if we really want to grow this program, but we know that universities around us only produce maybe 1 or 2 candidates a year, then we can also look at industry to help us in that recruitment. So it just gives us a better idea of what we can do and how much we can grow our programs.
And the other thing it does is you could separate the contracts where they're not a full-time employee yet able to give credit. So if we wanted to start, let's say, an early college year, they can be duly employed with Del Mar and us and be on both campuses at the same time so the kid could graduate with an associate's degree, which is really hard to do to commit like a Del Mar professor who wants to be full-time in both spots. That's a hard thing to do. But picking 1 or 2 to where they could come in and teach would be great. So that's what it's meant for. I know it sounds scary, but it really is beneficial, especially in times where we do have significant teacher shortages.
And I think that one thing I'd like to add, in addition to what Gabe has said, is on the teacher certification. I think that you could also specify that you would want it in your shortage areas. We had a very difficult time finding our bilingual teachers. We had to work with Laura, and there were some teachers who are bilingual and they're very fluent and they're good teachers, but they did not have the bilingual certification nor the college hours, so we could not recommend them for an emergency certificate. Nora Martinez, great chemistry teacher, recommended 2 chemical engineers to us. These would be great teachers for chemistry. We could not hire them. And even if they agreed to go through an education preparation program, you're talking $5,000 to $6,000 for the cost for the employee to even join a program.
And a couple of years
So
later.
somebody else picked them up. We couldn't hire them. Those little
Well,
things.
having all 4 principals here, I doubt that they would want to just go out and hire anybody anyway.
no.
I mean, they're going to be very specific on what they do because it ultimately still reflects on their school.
That's correct.
So, I mean,
We just want the very best.
exactly.
Man, it's like Gabe said, though, it's new, it's something we've never, I think we've touched on this before, but not to this depth, right? We just kind of.
Well, there's a few
Raised,
things that
yeah.
have to be
Right,
taught.
we just grazed over some of this.
Yeah.
God, I don't think we ever took the full step to being an innovative school.
And what's nice about us talking about this now is that there's been enough years where several of the districts around us have gone through this process. So if we were to decide to move forward, we have lots of history to learn from so that if there was a mistake made or there was some, nuance in some of their policies, we could learn from that so where we're not facing the same position. We can just make sure that we correct those at the time of the plan development. So that's a huge benefit right there.
And also, we can also depend, there's a lot of samples on the internet of districts of innovations who have gone there, and if they are district of innovations, so we can tap into some of that information already. There's a lot of samples.
And once you adopt it, if you need to tweak it or change it in some way, you can amend it. But it has to go through this process of being posted online for 30 days and the board approving it before you can move forward. For the November meeting, he will have had 1 meeting with the site-based team, and he could come back and report to you. And I would put on that list to talk about who's on the committee, to be sure you contact TEA and be sure we're not going to lose our year-round status if we change anything, even if we don't pick changing the school year start date, to be sure that we're guaranteed we're going to stay in that grandfathered status. And the names of schools in Region 2 who have DOIs. That sound good? That's the questions you had.
Sounds
I think
good.
we should have a workshop before we go to any kind of motion or resolution. Before a resolution is brought to us, we should have a workshop about this, and they should, bring all that to us so we can know if it's even worth the whole mess.
Well, there's no money attached, for one thing.
Right.
So you're doing this because it helps the district.
More information is needed.
Yeah, definitely more information is needed.
More information, yes, for sure. And if there's one, what I can hear most of it is gives you more flexibility in your hiring process and a few other areas, but That's why they call it a district of innovation. We're innovating the process by which you're going systematically working by now.
Thank you, Dr. White, for that
Thank you.
I didn't want to keep us here all night, but just enough to where you all understood the process,
So we
understood the
have more
timeline,
questions.
and just understood kind of what we can do, what we can't do. But more information will definitely come, because I definitely think it's worth our while.
Yes, thank you, Dr. White, and Gabe, we appreciate it because you've lived it. Thank you. All right, board debriefing and discuss the recent TASB convention. That there were 4 of us that attended, and so we just start with you, Stephen, if there's anything that you'd like to debrief on concerning the convention.
Might have to come back to me on that one.
Okay, well, that's good. Jan?
Let me think about that.
As always, I like the general session, but I was a little disappointed in the speakers. They weren't as motivating, it was more their stories, but Fort Bend ISD did a great job with their student performance. Other than that, a legal side with that TASB lawyers put on, that could have been an all-day session, really. I don't think there was an opportunity. Were you in there, Mr. Clark? I asked a lot of questions, and a lot of new updates coming out. That you guys are going to have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the legislation that y'all are handed and what has to be followed all the time. It's changing all the time.
One of the ones that stuck out was Senate Bill, I think it was 179, with the counseling time, how they're going to have to be accountable for 80% of their
80%.
day. I didn't understand. There wasn't an opportunity to ask questions. Is that like guidance counseling or emotional counseling?
No, your guidance counselor has to spend 80% of their time counseling and only 20% doing special programs or paperwork.
Do we have the staff?
It's probably been the reverse for most counselors. I'm not saying in this district, but generally speaking. They're saying they've got to get out of the paperwork and into talking to kids.
Okay, I got my thing up.
Okay.
So several of the workshops we went to, they talked about critical race theory and how it's affecting school boards, classes, everything. And people coming, and it's very disruptive at the school board meetings, in the classrooms. It's just a lot to deal with. I know there's new legislation on it, and it just seemed like it was all across the state causing issues.
There was a ISD near Austin, think of that presentation that had the assaults going on and everything. I mean, arrests were being made.
Yeah, arrests were being made, parents.
Seemed like a lot of problems going on in school boards and schools with this.
Jan, do you have any more?
Well, it was my first one to go to, and it was very informative. But like I said, the legislation that is handed down to y'all, is the amount of it and how many changes have to be made on an ongoing basis was just very eye-opening for me. But the presentations of the kids was amazing. The kids made it worthwhile for sure.
They did. They did an outstanding job, especially that small school district.
Sunnyvale.
Huh?
Sunnyvale ISD.
Sunnyvale ISD. Wow, I was very impressed. They had everybody together on that one. For me, I'm with Kim and everybody else, is the legislative update session that the TASB attorneys put on. They do it under a game show, and they make it very entertaining. But like I said, there wasn't enough time because they're pressed for time, so they have just a limited amount of time that they can put on the presentation, and they go through it. And we can have access to it through our TASB website to go through all of that stuff, and without the fanfare. But there is a lot of legislation. I also went to several sessions that discussed some of that legislation in depth, particularly on counseling. And then there was one on student discipline, and there was another one. But what I found very interesting was a small school district that East Texas, that they thought the board, the superintendent thought they were working real good, well together. Everything was working smooth. And they wanted to get better, so they got Mo Casey, a consulting they do multiple different types of things, Mold Casey. And they came in and did some team building over, I think it was like almost 6 months that they had to go through all this stuff. And they developed a strategy, goals, and worked with everything, did a board self-evaluation, superintendent evaluation. They went through the whole process. And they went from a moderately successful district to a high-performing district. And they all attributed to everybody at the top was working together, and they got things going downstream, and that affected everyone, and everything got to working better. The kids started performing better, teachers and everything, morale came up and everything, because of all the different things that they were doing. And it was amazing that their transformation and everything says, well, we always got along. We thought we were doing good, but they came in, they went through the whole process. It took them a while. And one of the board members, you could tell he was, well, anyway, you could tell he was East Texas, okay, I'll put it that way. You know, he was saying, I thought everything was going to be all right, but we're doing a lot better now. We got a direction, and we're all going the same direction, because that was one of their slides. When board members and principals and administrators at all levels start going off in their different directions, that was one of the things. It's getting everybody going in the same direction. And I'm thinking, wow, that was a good strategy, and it showed. Their test scores and everything went up. That was one of the best ones I saw. And I was going to have Chrissy print it out, but it was 35 pages long. And it was actually from a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, but that was one of the other ones that was really impressive. And then, of course, there were a few others. That most of its information and build up on all the legislation and some of the legislation that is yet to come from some of the special sessions. We can't say anything about it because they're still thinking about it. Everything. A lot of it is school finance, but very informative. Like I said, the kids' performances, that's one of the things I don't want to miss, because they do an excellent job and everything. Other than that, that's all. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Yes, I will.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about you.
You were there?
I was talking about the board members. Sorry.
Commissioner Morath talked at length, in fact, almost made us late for the final bus route, about accountability and test scores. And one thing he brought up was in August 2005, Hurricane Katrina, which is a Category 5, hit New Orleans, and they had to disperse their schools and homes and so on. And they said it took them 4 years of heavy intervention work to work with the kids on their reading and math. The reading finally came up after 4 years, but the math did not. It stayed delayed. And so we can kind of anticipate that, since we have not had that direct instruction from the teachers, which we know is so valuable, that this is not going to be an overnight effect. And the A-to-F system that they like to label us with will be paused for 3 years. They didn't give us that rating in 2020, in 21, or 2022. And another one I attended that was real good was on the Texas Open Meetings Act, and the title caught my attention. It said, "Avoiding Daisy Chains and Chainsaws, a Stay Out of Jail Session." And an attorney presented that, and he talked about the daisy chain, which means two people tell two people, and those two people tell two other people, and after a while, everybody is in that gossip chain. He said, be careful if it's school board, it's two people talking, because then they maybe include two other people, and then before you know it, everybody's talking about something. So they said that kind of like the old party line that some people had in the rural communities. People can hear what you're saying and carry that message along. Of course, we can only have a meeting when it's an agenda, and we're called to at a meeting where you can vote. They said don't have a walking quorum where you're, a couple of people are talking about issues of the school or making decisions or getting votes in advance. And he said no parking lot chat after the meeting. He says get in your cars and leave because the community will think you're talking about what happened in the meeting. And no reply on emails. Stay on the topic, and something I had not heard before was a certified agenda, which Stephen takes care of those in closed session. He's writing up what people say. And if you copy it, if somebody happens to copy it, if there's a $2,000 fine, or you can go to jail, and to go to jail for 1 to 6 months. So that's pretty serious what he's writing. And so anyway, it's best to build trust and work together. That's a conclusion. But I enjoyed the music also of the students. It was really entertaining. Their theme was We Will Rise, and everything was very positive and uplifting.
Reminded you of what you do.
Yes. Why we're in this business. It's all about the kids.
It's all about the kids, all of them, every one of them.
Thank y'all for letting me go.
Thank you for being there. Okay, the next item is consent agenda discussion action items, which includes the August financials, check register, budget amendments, and board meeting minutes. Is there anything that needs to?
I have one.
Okay.
Patrick, I'm sorry, no, Patrick. Philip, I just wanted to know, what was this, live stream equipment? That was the one that jumped out at me, other than, it's on page 5 of 8. It's kind of at the bottom, it's for $19,000. I mean, to tell you the truth, even the Nueces County that was higher didn't even jump out at me as much as that one did. I was like, well, what did we live stream that needed equipment? I mean, it says Nalco Media or Media?
Nalco Media.
I'll have to look and see what that is. It's something that we bought last year because that got charged to accounts payable, so we received it in August, and because I can't tell from the account code because that's the accounts payable code. I'll have to get back with you on that.
And the only other thing, and since I'm the one talking right now, I'll let everybody else talk, I'll be quite a promise. And is the band uniforms, weren't those budgeted like almost 2 years ago? Didn't we approve the uniforms?
We approved the budget 2 fiscal years ago.
Right.
But we had issues with selecting the vendor, and so we had to scrap the process. And by that time, thankfully, we didn't go to competition that year, so it wasn't a necessity that we get the new uniforms because we had the issue with the vendor selection. And so we had to table it. So we rolled the budget over into last year. We went through the selection process again. We picked the vendor. We awarded the vendor. But unfortunately, the uniforms came in right at the beginning of September, or the middle of September. So because they didn't physically come here before the end of the fiscal year, I just have to roll it over 1 more year to the new year. So yes, it did take 2 years to purchase the uniforms. That's a correct statement.
And I'm gonna steal the thunder. That's okay.
It wasn't planned.
I mean, they still, with their award that they won this weekend, I mean, as well, spend money. But, I thought about that because the very last amendment says that it was for October 12th, 2021, but it's under the amount that we give you permission to spend, so I didn't know why that was there. It was all for the general fund, for the transportation. Yeah, for the transportation of the bus. It's just before the minutes.
Which budget amendment?
No, that's the second one.
Okay, yeah, the second one, that's a completely separate. The first one is a carry forward of all the projects, the major projects that didn't finish in last fiscal year. This is a brand new amendment asking, it's basically we're pulling it from fund balance to go ahead and buy a new special needs bus.
And because we didn't budget a bus in.
Correct, and it's been I think you said 2018 was the last time we bought a special needs bus, so. Special recommend, you have to order them, especially the special needs bus, as soon as possible, because we wanted to, hopefully it'll come in way before next August. But we want to get the order in, so we can get it out of this year's budget. But yes, this is coming out of fund balance to pay for this, because we did not originally.
Where we didn't originally. I just wanted to make sure the date.
Bus, is it a full-size bus or is it a smaller bus? Or?
All our special needs buses now are full-size bus. We have so many students enrolled in it, we need the larger buses.
And what's the difference between the special needs bus and the regular bus? Does it have hydraulic lifts or does it have the seat belts?
It has the lifts, it has track flooring so that we can adjust the configurations for wheelchairs. It's got the the 3-point belt for the wheelchairs. The track flooring's the biggest and most expensive part of it.
Great.
Any other comments, questions?
For the new board members, we should have had Patrick bring a bus like we did the tour when it gets here.
No, when it gets here.
Yeah, when it gets here, so we can all get in it like 4 years ago. If I remember that day, we got a party.
Okay, Ms. Secor.
It's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Secor. I'll make the motion, administrative recommendation. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, any other comments or questions? Good comments, good questions, good answers. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code 551, for possible board discussion, employment designations, board discussion, SBEC sanction of certification job abandonment, DFL legal, board discussion, employment of certified personnel, 551.074, board discussion, employment of non-chapter 21 contracts. If a closed session item requires action, the board should take such action when reconvening an open session. 551.103, certified agenda of closed session is maintained. 551.103, and the items are posted and disclosed in accordance with law. 551.104. Shall we go into closed session mode? Was anyone need a?
There's a recess.
Okay. We'll go into pleasure of the board. A recess.
Yeah, just a bit.
At 8:47. It's 9:21 p.m. October the 18th, 2021. We're back in open session.
All right, I bring to you names to accept for resignation: Joseph Melody, Yune Mulville, and Leah Gomez.
The motion, accept the resignations. Yes, bid. Kim, second. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one, there is no sanction. Discussion of certified personnel. And I'm recommending to you for hiring Rebecca Hammond and Candy Briseño for educator probationary contracts for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. And Amanda Muggy for a non-Chapter 21 contract for the remainder of the 21-22 school year.
I'll make that motion that we hire those individuals for non-chapter 21 and the 2 for certification, teacher certification. Second, Kim, comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for everything this evening. Okay, as you see the announcement, there's at November 1st, a board workshop, but they board operating procedures to go through the other things. And then, of course, November 15th, the regular board meeting. And then December the 13th for December. board meeting. Mr. Gore, is there any further business? If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Okay, Ben. Ben, we have a second, please. Ken, seconds. Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. It is 9:23 p.m. October the 2021. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here this evening. Any comments, discussion? Okay. I'm trying to.
Sir,